r/paranormal encounters, entity, the purple puppet. Have you seen him? I have used IA to recreate this thing I met as a kid. I know this looks silly, but I woke up one night to the sound of wind blowing through my parents' house. I left my bedroom and walked down the hallway towards the front of the house, feeling like I was in a trance. I found the front door open, swinging on its hinges. My parents' room was opposite the door, and I heard something calling from inside. That was the first time I saw him. This strange Sesame Street-looking puppet was standing in the corner of their room beside their bedside table. He tried to talk to me, but I ran at him, pushed him away and hid under my parents' bedsheet. When I woke up, I was in their room and completely convinced it was real, but they didn't believe me. Then, a few years later, I met him again at my grandparents' beach house where I was staying overnight. I heard a noise in their living room and went to investigate. He was standing in the corner, so I ran and hid behind an ottoman. My granddad woke up to the noise and found me there. I asked him to check the corner, but the puppet was gone. The first time could have been a dream I had while sleepwalking, but the second time I know I wasn't dreaming. I need to know if anyone else has ever seen him. r/paranormal. My mom, sister and I had an unexplained encounter 13 years ago. With Halloween coming up, I was reminded of a creepy encounter I had 13 years ago. My mom's friend that lived in a subdivision down the street made a post on Facebook that her cat got out and was missing. My mom's sister and I volunteered to help find him, so we all hopped in the car and started driving around her subdivision looking for him. It was October 4th, 2012, around 10 p.m. and very dark out with a thunderstorm in the distance. We were driving on the right side of the road, and on the left side of the road a little girl appeared out of nowhere. She looked around 6 years old, had no legs, both amputated just above the knee, light skin, darkish hair, and I think a pink outfit on. She was rolling herself down the middle of the other lane in a small wheelchair. She had a very stiff posture and was looking straight ahead, and didn't acknowledge our car and did not shield her eyes from our bright headlights. I believe my mom had her high beams on. We were both going opposite directions, so we passed each other rather quickly. There was a moment of silence right after we all saw her, each of us questioning our sanity for a second. Then we started freaking out a little. My mom quickly turned the car around and we drove back down the street, and the little girl was nowhere to be seen. We were a bit freaked out, but ended up continuing our search for the cat. We didn't see anyone else around that entire night. We ended up finding the cat yelling at another cat behind some bushes. When returning him to my mom's friend, we told her what happened, and she said she's never seen any little girl matching that description in her subdivision. A few days ago, I made a post on my town's Facebook page reciting this encounter and asking people who lived in that specific area of the subdivision if a little girl in a wheelchair ever lived around there 13 years ago. So far, nobody can recall ever seeing a little girl in a wheelchair. I just can't imagine someone letting their 6-year-old in a wheelchair cruise down the street at 10 o'clock at night with no adult supervision. I searched for old articles involving missing girls or deaths in this area and came up empty. Our town is pretty small, so if anything happened around here it would have been big and everyone would have known about it. However, I suppose some acts can start in one place and end in another. And not all acts are uncovered immediately. I'll be holding my breath for a long time on this one, especially with all the construction going on around here. Anyway, I included a screenshot of some of the replies on the Facebook post I made. I'll update if anything is ever discovered. Here is a screenshot they included along with their post where they ask if anyone has ever seen a girl in a wheelchair in that area. Many say no. One commenter even says that they lived in the area for 20 years and have never seen a girl in a wheelchair. Many made jokes about the strangeness of the sighting, although no one has any answers as to who it may have been that night. r/and explained, I saw 4 girls dancing in black dresses. I went to my corner 7-Eleven. As I got out, I went to the crosswalk. When I pushed the button, I could see 4 girls across from me dancing and laughing in black long flowing dresses. Didn't think anything of it until I pushed the crossing button. Looked up and they were gone. No voices, no nothing. My wife doesn't believe me. I'm freaked the hell out right now. r/paranormal. When I was little, my sister's radio talked to me. Due to the language used in this story, I will need to censor and summarize most of this story. But you'll get the idea of how scary and menacing this haunted or tampered with radio was in the story. When I was a kid in 1997, I would always go into my sister's room and play with my action figures because her room was a lot bigger. She always collected old furniture, old wood bed frame, old wood dresser, and an old-time radio with knobs and a light-up dial. One time the radio turned on by itself and a male voice called me by name. I was really confused and uneasy with it, but as a child it didn't particularly scare me right away until it started screaming and cursing at me. The longer I listened, the angrier the voice got, the meaner it became. Then, it devolved to mindless cursing and shouting. One insult I didn't understand until years later when I was older. I unplugged the radio and never went into my sister's room alone after that. Now the really creepy part, flash forward to 2010 when my sister is getting married. We're having some beers and I tell her this story. She goes completely white and explained that the radio would come on at nights and do the same thing to her, address her by name and insult her and then get mean and then scream and shout obscenities. She sold it to a flea market in Toledo, Ohio around the year 2000. If you happen to buy it, I'm sorry to inform you that your radio is a complete jerk and possibly possessed by a demon. r/strange childhood encounters. Share yours. I'll start first. Reoccurring old hag visits. Maybe it was night terrors, but it's something that's always stuck with me, and now I'm nearly 30 years old. From a small age, I was absolutely terrified to sleep alone. I was plagued by what I can only describe as an old hag every single night when I was asleep in my own room, to the point I'd wake up at all hours terrified, shaking, crying, you name it, until my parents came in the room. Each night an old lady in a pink gown, toothless and little hair, used to come into my room laughing her head off like a hag's laugh whilst holding one old-fashioned all-lamp candle in one hand and used to stare at me. This happened for around 3 years, to the point my parents used to let me sleep with them because of how traumatized I was each night. Now, this is where I get super freaked out, so it was always brushed off as night terrors. One day just a couple of years ago, I visited my pa with my partner and we was speaking about the house and old neighbors, and I asked, did you know the person who lived there prior to us? He said no, it was an old lady who was alone but she passed away. That's how we got the house. Maybe just a coincidence, huh? One time it was a winter's morning, so each time I woke up for preschool it would still be dark outside for a little while. One morning my mom shouted at me from downstairs as per usual, and I woke up late there, and she shouted at me again. I went downstairs. The light was on. I turned the TV and was watching Barney the Bear. Whilst I waited for my breakfast to be brought in, my mom would keep the doors closed between the living room and kitchen as she used to smoke in there. Anyhow, some time passed. Barney had finished and she still hadn't come in. So I opened the doors to see what she was doing, and to my surprise it was pitch black in there. My mom wasn't in there and I got really freaked out, like, you know when you have a wave of fear come over you. I completely had that. I was a child. My mom and dad came running downstairs and assured me I'm dreaming and sleepwalking. At this point I'm hysterical, telling them I'm awake, and she woke me up. She shouted at me twice, one waking me out of sleep and the other time because I was taking long. r/paranormal. My daughter keeps talking to the construction workers in our new house. There's no construction nearby. We moved to Boise 3 months ago. Old house, built in the 1920s I think, needed some updating but good bones. My daughter Lily is 4. About a month after we moved in she starts talking about the construction workers. I figure she means the guys who were here fixing the porch before we moved in. Just kids remembering stuff weird, whatever, but she keeps bringing them up. Says they're loud in the morning, that they wake her up with all the banging and talking. I don't hear anything. Last week I'm putting her to bed, and she goes, "Mama, can you tell the construction workers to be quiet? I'm trying to sleep." I'm like, "Honey, there's no construction workers. We're all done with the repairs." She gets this look on her face like I'm stupid and points at the wall. They're in there. The wall she's pointing at is the one we share with our bathroom. Solid wall. Nothing in there except pipes and insulation. I checked the bathroom anyway because I'm not sleeping if I don't. Nothing. No sounds. No workers, obviously. 2 nights ago she comes into our bedroom at 2 a.m. crying. Says the construction workers were being too loud and saying bad words. My husband checks her whole room, the bathroom, the attic access. Nothing. Here's the part that's freaking me out. Yesterday I'm doing laundry and I hear it. Faint but definitely there. Sounds like voices and something metal banging. Coming from inside the wall between Lily's room and the bathroom. I put my ear against the wall and it stops immediately. I asked our neighbor if anyone's doing construction nearby. She looked at me weird and said no. She did however ask how Lily was adjusting to it though, which felt like an odd thing to add. My husband thinks it's pipes, but pipes don't talk. And Lily heard them first. I don't know what this is, but I'm not imagining it anymore. R/and explained, please explain this weird experience I had at 8 years old. When I was a little boy of around 8 years old, now I'm 31, and my mom took me to a kid's pool party. One of her friends had twin girls around the same age, and it was their birthday that day. My memories of that day aren't abundant. I don't remember every detail of what happened. However, the things I do recall aren't blurry at all. The little moments I remember are crystal clear. We got to the pool where the twins and other kids were, and I remember my mother started talking with the other moms at the party while I played in the pool with the other kids. There were many things at the party, like inflatable castles for jumping, tables full of food and drinks, and a little park with slides and such that I just couldn't keep my eyes off of. It was like that park had something special, though I didn't know what. I couldn't stop looking at it. I was drawn to it. Some kids from the party were playing there, and it was meant for the party to use as if it were part of the pool area, though it wasn't very close, probably about 60 feet 20 meters away or so. Kids were constantly running back and forth to it, but then again, we were all just kids having fun. I remember swimming a little more, and then I couldn't help it anymore. I had been kind of resisting, but I had to go to the park. I needed to know what it was that made the park so interesting to me, so I just headed there, as if I had a call for it. When I got to the park, there were these slides, and without much thought, I just climbed up and went down the biggest slide there was. It wasn't too tall, but for an 8-year-old kid, it was fun, you know. Well, after I slid down, for some reason, I just didn't move. I stayed there, sitting at the end of the slide. Why? I don't know. After about 30 seconds or so, I looked up, and there was this really big, fat kid getting ready to slide down, not caring at all if I was there or not. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't too skinny myself. I ate well and all, had a tummy and everything, but this kid was really fat, like very obese, you could say. The thought of him sliding down and hitting my back was scary, and yet, for some reason, I still didn't move. And off he went, sliding down at top speed, and I just stayed there, waiting for him to hit me. I still remember all of that, and I can't think of a reason why I didn't move, really. But anyway, he hit my back, and as soon as he did, I remember blacking out. Not the kind of blackout where you faint from being hit, but more like everything went black after that. I couldn't see a thing. And then, all of a sudden, in that blackness, I opened my eyes, and I was in my room, in my bed, in my usual sleeping position. But I couldn't move at all. I was only able to move my eyes. I remember hearing things happening outside my bedroom and tried to speak, but I couldn't open my mouth or vocalize my thoughts. I could only move my eyes a little. I was having sleep paralysis, but I didn't know it at the time. I only learned about sleep paralysis and what it was after I turned 14, so back then, I didn't think too much of it. I just thought I had a weird dream and went back to sleep. Lol. Anyways, after sleeping a bit more, I woke up like normal, but what happened was too weird to just let go. Was it all a dream, or did it actually happen? To me, it felt way too real. So I remember starting to ask my mom questions about the fat kid who hit me on the slide. She was like, "What fat kid?" And I said, "From the party." She replied, "What party?" And I said, "From the pool." Then she asked, "What pool?" At that point, I was kind of used to my mom not listening too closely to me or paying deep attention to the things I said. I remember she would dismiss a lot of my ideas very quickly because I was just a kid, and I really let my imagination run wild a lot of the time. I would say things that adults usually considered weird or just a product of a kid's imagination. So, I let my imagination loose there and thought to myself that what happened at the pool and all that had actually happened a year ago, and when I was hit on the slides, I fell into some kind of coma for a year. I believed I had just woken up there, in my bed, a year later. I know, I told you my imagination was wild when I was a kid, so there I was, 8-year-old me thinking I was actually 9 years old. I remember for 3 whole days, I would tell everyone that I was 9. Why 3 days? I'll get to that in a bit. But I remember very vividly that my mom would get really embarrassed because we'd meet someone on the street, and they'd ask about me or my age. My mom would say, "He's 8," and I would correct her, saying, "Mom, I'm 9." I can even remember her being embarrassed by all that and the smirk she used to make when I said it. Thinking about it now is actually a bit funny to me. 3 days went by, and I was still convinced I was 9, even though my mom and other family members kept telling me I was 8. I really thought they were dumb because they didn't seem to realize that I had lived through a whole year in a coma. Oh well. And on that 3rd day, my mom says, "Hey, we're going to the pool today, so get ready." I didn't think too much of it, and went to grab my usual swimming gear, got ready, and off we went. When we arrived at the place, I got out of the car and had this odd feeling that I remembered the place, but still, nothing seemed too strange. As we walked further and started seeing the pool, the same one from the story, I began noticing the inflatable castles and tables, and that's when things started feeling really odd to me. But I was there, just going with the flow. Then it happened. My mom went to greet the twins' mother, and the exact same scene from my dream, or not dream, or whatever that weird experience was, started unfolding. I kid you not, the exact same scene. My mom saying the same words, introducing me to the twins' mom, then introducing me to the twins. The same party was going on, the same things, the same people, the same everything. It was like I was experiencing the same thing for a second time. The tables were the same, the inflatable castle, even the kids doing the same things. And the park, let's not forget about the park. It was right there in the same spot, and I just couldn't keep my eyes off it. Just writing this down tears me up because it's such a weird, vivid thing in my mind. And there I was, enjoying the party, again? The same things were happening, but it wasn't just a little similar. No, the exact same things were happening. The twin girls said the same things to me. Some other kids were doing the exact same things, jumping into the pool the same way. And there was the park that I couldn't stop looking at. It was happening again. I was scared of the park at that point, but for some weird reason, I couldn't get it out of my sight or my mind. Deep down, I didn't want to go there, but when the time came, I just stood up, just like before, and walked to the park the same way, at the same speed. When I got there, I looked at the park the same way I did before, and then I climbed up the biggest slide, just like before, and slid down. When I was down there, I waited patiently, and after about 30 seconds or so, I looked up, and there he was, the fat kid, just carelessly getting ready to slide down and ram me over. Still, to this day, I don't know why. If I knew he was going to slide down, I didn't just move. I really don't, but I stood there, and the fat kid just launched himself down, and off he came. Then, boom, he hit my back with his feet and all his weight. Only this time, there was no blackout. I just started feeling the pain in my back, and I began crying, like any kid would when being hit. I bolted off, crying to my mom to tell her what happened. I remember she was paying more attention to her conversation with her friend rather than the fact that I was crying, which was a bit usual for her. She tried to calm me down, and after the pain wore off, I went back to the pool to relax and just play it cool. I remember that I started thinking about what just happened, and right then and there, I know I wasn't 9 years old, that's for sure, lol. So I shrugged those ideas off. I started thinking to myself that I had indeed let my imagination run far too wild. In my mind, I thought that when the fat kid hit me, I would black out again. But this time, I would somehow be able to experience my 1-year coma, like actually knowing what I went through instead of just waking up a year later. Just kids reasoning, you know, but since it didn't happen, I realized it was just me with a wild imagination. And so, days passed by, and I started forgetting about it, then months, and then years. I basically stopped talking about it at all, which brings me to today. I'm now married, been married for 3 years, and my wife and I, over the last couple of months, have been talking a lot about our past, sharing stories and whatnot. This story came up, and I told her what I experienced. She was very interested in it, and said there was more to it than I cared to acknowledge. She's convinced there's something to analyze and discover from the whole thing, so she told me to post it on here and see if someone knows something or has experienced something similar. Maybe share the story if that is the case. Any information you might have that would lead us to any answer would be great. I might add that since I stopped talking about this for more than half of my life, I forgot whether my dream, or not dream, and the sleep paralysis happened before or after the real pool birthday party. It was all really mixed up in my head. The story was initially about the sleep paralysis that I didn't know was sleep paralysis, so my wife told me to call my mom and ask her questions about those times to see if we could pick up on something. So, I called my mom and asked her about it. She didn't remember much about me from those times, other than the fact that I did say weird things from time to time, which she just thought was my imagination. She also remembered that I used to say I was 9 when I was actually 8 years old. She said that I always wanted to be older than I really was, and that was something that stood out about my personality. Then I asked her, "But do you remember your friend who had twin daughters around my age?" She said, "Yeah," and I asked, "Do you remember a birthday party at a pool?" She said, "Yeah, I remember that day. What about it?" I then asked, "Do you remember anything weird or that stood out about me that day?" She responded, "The only thing I remember that weirded me out was that I introduced you to my friend and the twins for the first time in your life. You didn't know them at all, but when I introduced you to the twins, you said to me, 'Yeah, Mom, I already met them before. They're my friends.'" Got goosebumps just writing that final part. So, that confirmed for me and my wife that I, in fact, did experience the dream before the real-life event. Could that be connected to the sleep paralysis somehow? I don't know, but please do share any insight you might have, as now I'm very interested in getting to the bottom of this. If you have any questions, I can answer them too. See ya. That's it for this video, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. And before I end this video, I am excited to announce to you all that my new book, True Paranormal Encounters from San Antonio and More, is now available. This book is based on true paranormal encounters experienced by my dad and other family members in the past. Each true story comes with its own original artwork to go along with it. This book will likely be getting a video of its own in the near future, where I will cover about 3 or 4 stories from the book. A link to purchase will be in the description. The book is available on Amazon and Mixam, but I think the Mixam version came out a little better. It also contains additional content not on the Amazon version, and only costs a couple cents more. Your purchase would mean a lot to me and my family, and would help support the channel, and would give you a thrilling new read to dive into. Thanks for watching, and until next time, the Ellie Ghost.